Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich, and this video is intended to be sort of an accessory to my handout on Bible study methods. So presumably you've got the methods there in front of you. If not, you can go to tomulrichconsulting.com/church and you'll see some pull downs where you can get the latest version of the handout. Now, the handout itself is called Notes on Systematic Bible Study Techniques. So let me tell you a little bit about that. So the first thing is I want you to emphasize, to note the word systematic. See, the idea here is what we are trying to do is get past ourselves where we come to a text, we read it, we immediately assume we understand it, and then we sort of bring in all sorts of experiences, and all of a sudden we find ourselves reading things into the text. Instead, what we want to do is we want to have a more rigorous method, a method where we sort of give ourselves activities, and what we find is these activities help us overcome, sort of our blindness almost, where, we read a text, it somehow resonates with some experience, and then we don't really notice that what we thought we read isn't. So these techniques are all geared toward helping you get to a very simple question. What does the text actually say? Now, ultimately, what we want to do is go a step further and get to this question: what was the author trying to say? See, one of the underlying premises of this method is that when each book of the Bible was written, it had a human author, and that author was trying to say something. I mean, imagine if you were writing a letter to somebody or an email or something, and they interpreted it without that assumption. Well, I'll just interpret this No, you try to get to what's called authorial intent. And so the idea is to be very systematic, to be very rigorous, to try to get past our own sort of blindness and get to what the text says, then what the text means, and ultimately how it applies to our life today. And that's a very important point. I'm a lay person. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a seminary professor. I'm an engineer. And at the end of the day, the goal of doing this thing is to become more like Christ. And at any rate, thank you for joining. I think you're going to find this an interesting journey. I guess I should clarify too. This handout is not like, well, I read some books, as a homework assignment, sort of synthesized it, and here's my scholarly, summary of the things. Now, it's not that. Now, make no mistake, I have studied this formally. I mean, I've studied this topic at Biola University, at Gateway Seminary, and more recently as part of my doctoral program at Regent University. But make no mistake about it, this handout was first written in 1984, and it has been revised dozens and dozens of times. Pretty much every time I learn something, I revise it. But the idea is I'm a guy who's been leading a Bible study since 1984 when I first read it. And what this handout reflects are the things that I found are effective ways to teach this. So this is meant to be a practical guide for lay people, that if you follow these methods, what most people seem to find is they really do learn to be able to reliably go to the well for themselves. They go to Scripture and come to terms with what it says and what it means and how it applies. And so it is meant to be a practical guide. By the way, on that line too, I should clarify, it's not like I'm making any of this stuff up. Certainly in the main body of the handout, the things I say, what kind of the contribution I've done is I've maybe organized them in a helpful way. But make no mistake about it, the things that I say in the main body is sort of the consensus view of the evangelical community. I'm not, creating some new thing. The appendices, and there's a whole bunch of appendices, those are things I've created, as most of them are examples and thoughts and things like, hey, what commentaries to buy and where to get material and examples of outlines and all these sort of very, very nuts and bolts things. Those are original. But the stuff in the main body, the method, how you do this is nothing I've created, by the way. Most of it, I think, can be traced back to two sources. One is when I was in college at UC Irvine, I was involved with a group called the Navigators, and they had a lot of handouts that didn't have anybody's name on it. It was just sort of like you go to a meeting, here's a handout. But popular Navigator lore is a lot of that originated with Dr. Howard Hendricks from Dallas Seminary. And then the other book that's been probably the biggest influence on a lot of these things is Fee and Stewart's How to Study the Bible for All It's Worth. And by the way, one of the appendices gives you all the information on these books I just mentioned, so you don't have to like quick write this down. At any rate, welcome. Hopefully you'll find this helpful. I'm going to go through and make a video for each section so you can kind of watch them one at a time. And the intent is, if you're leading a group, through this, probably what you would do is maybe watch 1 or 2 videos each week, and then after 10 or 15 weeks, as you're kind of diving in, don't like wait till you've seen all the videos to start. I mean, dive in, start doing some stuff, and the most important thing is just simply to start. At any rate, welcome to the series, and there'll be a lot of other stuff online. Talk to you later.